Hello, so today we're going to be going over the B patch that just came out. So this happened like maybe 1 or 2 hours ago, but this is the patch 13.6, so the one that just came out on Wednesday of last week. And now what they did is a little bit of a B patch. There's going to be some small updates, and we're going to talk about that and how that might change around some of the comps. I know a lot of people, just from my comment section, as well as when I'm playing the game, aren't really fond of the particular patch, so there is a little bit of hope. We can talk about what some of these changes mean for the current patch. If you like my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. I do daily TFT content, including many guides, as well as how to play guides, in addition to reaction content and some review of patch notes similar to this one. This is going to be a very short video today, by the way. It's just because I'm a little bit busy, so I was trying to work on one and then edit another video. So we're just going to do the patch notes and then we'll talk about some of the comms because it's a little bit of an easier topic to just bang out a video for the daily upload. So this happened today, February 24th, so trait changes. So they basically reverted the 8 Enforcer shield and damage amp. I think that something you'll see in these patch notes is a little bit more of a shift of trying to make some of the units that got nerfed or buffed on the previous patch a little bit less overtuned, if that makes sense, or undertuned. I don't think 8 Enforcer was that big of a deal. I think if you hit 8 Enforcer, a lot of times you had a Caitlyn, you're winning out anyways. I think that the main reason that you kind of had a problem with 8 Enforcer was if you're getting railed by a reroll comp. I don't think this matters all that much. I didn't think the nerf was that important either, so it is what it is. If you're an Enforcer enjoyer, good news for you. 8 Enforcer, a little bit better. Sniper base damage, so this is the big one. Snipers kind of took over the TFT Rift by storm. So when you're playing around your sniper units, they changed it so that they have like a base amount of damage amp in addition to the hex damage amp that you get. So they're nerfing that base damage amp. So here you can see the numbers that were previously active, 10, 40, and 80. And now they're nerfing it to 5, 35, and 75. So 5% reduction on all of them. Now, what does this mean? I don't think it means all that much. A 5% nerf on the damage amp isn't that much, considering that you get so much from especially 2 and 4 sniper. I think the boards that you play, whether it be Zeri or play around Twitch or play around Caitlyn or play around Kog'Maw, they're going to be relatively the same. I don't think it's going to make it so that Zeri is out of the meta. I think that maybe now you won't have like 10 different people trying to force the same comp. What this does hurt, however, is if you nerf the base damage amp, it does nerf Twitch. So it actually, in my opinion, makes snipers more of a reroll focused comp, because Twitch, the best benefit of the 4 sniper was that you get a lot of base damage amp. So with your experiment bonus, if you're stuck with a Twitch on one side or the other side, you don't get like railed by like, you know, people clumping on the same side as your Twitch, because you lose the per hex damage amp. However, if you're not playing around Twitch, then you probably want to cap out around the other units such that you can position them a little bit better. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but Watchers also is probably going to get a nerf, which we'll see in the patch notes. But, you know, lines like this where you're playing like, you know, 4 sniper, 4 Watcher is probably going to be more of a go-to than playing strictly experiment Twitch, I think. Or if you're playing experiment Twitch, you're usually going to lock it to like 2 sniper, maybe emblem dependent or very strong frontline dependent. But I think this is going to be the way to play snipers, because you have a lot of flexibility in repositioning these units to get the damage, the 10% damage. And also 4 sniper being from 40 to 35 is not as substantial as 2 sniper from 10 to 5, right? Like 2 sniper got nerfed by like 50% and like 4 sniper got nerfed by like what, 10%, you know what I mean, roughly speaking. So like deeper into the trait, you'll notice the effects a little bit less. So I think you should try and aim for 4 sniper when you're playing the 4 cost comps or 4 cost variations. Obviously when you reroll, you can work on that in a little bit different, which we'll talk about in a second. Sorcerers, the reverting, I think the changes, I think this is back to how Sorcerers was before the patch, so they're trying to make it a little bit better. One of the big problems with Sorcerers was not as much the AP nerfs. These are okay. Like, I don't think this was the bigger issue. The bigger issue is what it says kind of here. They made a giant LeBlanc nerf. So a lot of Sorcerer boards, you would have the explosive damage, but a lot of it would be contingent on hitting the first LeBlanc. And now LeBlanc 1 is kind of very like wet noodle, doesn't really do all that much. Well, she still does a lot, don't get me wrong. She's a great unit. I'm not trying to diss LeBlanc. She's amazing. She's carried me a lot of LP for sure. But the problem with Sorcerer is a little bit less reliable. Something that happens with the meta in TFT a lot of times, when I say meta, I just mean like the way the balancing works and the way that the units that are good kind of play out. It's that if there's a lot of reroll lines and if there are very reliable reroll lines, it makes it very hard for you to play 4 cost lines. So Sorcerers isn't necessarily bad. It's just that it's really unlikely that you have a spot to play around Sorcerers nowadays, because if a lot of people are re-rolling 2 costs, like, you know, Quick Strikers are really strong. If you haven't been playing Quick Strikers, Akali is really strong. Family is really strong. Watcher's Area is really strong. Tristan is strong in certain spots. So if you queue into a lobby and 4 or 5 of the people are re-rolling, how the hell are you going to make it to level 8? You're going to die in your mid game. You have to pick a re-roll. Smeech is strong, right? And that's what happens when there's too many of the low cost units that are strong. It makes it that your spot has to be so incredibly good. Like, you have to be high rolling so hard to guarantee that you'll survive to make a roll down to play around these 4 and 5 cost comps. And because they nerfed LeBlanc, it also makes it so you're trying to play more on level 8 as well a little bit. It's just really awkward. So I don't think this is going to change much. But even before, in the previous patch, like the one that was out since Wednesday, Sorks is still okay. So that's just something nice to say, just to speak about it a little bit. Watchers. So Watcher, they're only changing 4 Watcher. Now, this is an interesting part, because I did bring up this board before, and I said we'll talk about it in a second. I don't know anymore, because with the sniper nerfs, I really think that you want to play around 4 sniper if you're trying to play around a Twitch carry. That's just my opinion, though. I haven't had first-hand experience in the B patch yet, because it just came out. I'm going to play it a little bit more tomorrow. But nerfing 4 Watcher is actually a little bit substantial, because, like, assuming that they nerf some of the actual Watcher units, I think there's a Vander nerf for sure. It'd be crazy if they left this unit the way he is. But when you're playing around 4 Watcher, this was a very stable frontline, because it was a little bit overtuned the amount that they buffed it, with 4 being like the durability. Now, when they're showing the durability, this is the part that I don't know, right? It says minimum damage reduction is going from 30 to 25. So that means that when they're above 50% health, I don't think Watcher is nerfed at all, right? So I think it's still going to be 45% durability if they're above 50% health. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong about this. If I'm right about that, like they're not nerfing the upper cap, I don't think this nerf is that substantial. To the point where it makes 4 Watcher not a good frontline, because a lot of times when you're playing these type of frontlines, you have something like a Gunblade with Zeri. If you're playing Zeri reroll, you have a lot of sustain to keep them alive, and it's only like a 5% nerf on the 4 Watcher, and 6 Watcher is unchanged. So now I think like maybe the way things shape up is like if you're playing around like a Zeri reroll, for example, which is something that you more likely play if you're playing like for 3-star Vander and 3-star Watcher frontline, you might just want to play 6 Watcher because it's completely unnerved. Before it was kind of debatable. I think like in general 4 Sniper was better payout than 6 Watcher, because you just get enough value with 4 Watcher. 4 Watcher isn't all that changed. It's only changed on when they drop below 50% health, which is substantial. Don't get me wrong. It is a nerf. But I don't think this comp is going to be non-existent. It's still going to be a Zeri reroll, being one of the best rerolls in the game, because you lost a little bit of damage amp, but it doesn't matter as much with Zeri, because if you're playing Watcher, she moves around, so you often get good sniper value anyways. And then the rerolls are still going to work. I think it maybe hurts Twitch a little bit more, because Twitch, you can't easily fit in a board like this to play around Twitch. You have to either play Experiment, so then you feel the sniper nerf a lot harder, because that base damage was really big for Twitch in particular. Helped him to stabilize. Now some champion changes. So this is it after this. So Draven AS from 0.75 to 0.7. These last couple days, this is why I'm making the patch note video today. Today's video, actually scripted out, was going to be talking about Draven reroll. So I'm going to mention it very briefly here. But Draven reroll is absolutely like monstrously strong. And like when I say Draven reroll, it's basically family reroll, but you prioritize Draven instead of the other units. So what do I mean by that? You remember I was talking about family? I made a guide on family 1 or 2 days ago. So for you that watched it, you know, this is like a little amendment. I talked about this board, right? It's a perfect synergy board, 4 Watcher, 3 family, and just play around the units. And I was talking about this, that you play it a lot of times when you have powder. Now, a lot of people have been starting to play, instead of prioritizing items on Violet and powder and all of the other units, you literally just go for Draven items. And I think Draven items are like double Gwinsu Deathblade. I'm not 100% sure on perfect items, because there's not enough data, especially now that he got changed a little bit. But if you played this and you prioritize Draven 3-star to a point where you don't even care about everything else, treating it like a Draven reroll instead of treating it like a family reroll is so much stronger. It's absurd how much stronger it is. I tried it out myself because I was curious, and I didn't want to talk about it in the family video because at first I thought, okay, I'm gonna make a pit fighter guide, and in my pit fighter guide I'll talk about Draven reroll because there's this variation, and then you cap out with like 4 pit fighter, you know, something like this, and then you could maybe drop the echo, right? But this was more focused on Draven because you don't care too much about family, and I wasn't sure if you can even drop family. According to like my research, you still want to have family in because usually you go for a dual carry with the Violet. So eventually you will put Violet items on Violet and she'll work as a frontline and damage dealer, and you go dual carry Draven Violet and you kind of don't care about anybody else. You play Vertical Watcher, and I think some people were speculating that you play 6 Watcher. You just drop some of these units and you play 6 Watcher, and you play it similar to like a Zeri reroll where you just have this Draven stack up these Gwynsu's and do a massive amount of damage. This is something that I'll probably make a standalone video talking about if it's still good, because they nerfed his starting AS, and I don't know if that's gonna like hurt the idea that Draven is like significantly better than playing around the powder. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but this might hurt it if you're on the wave, if you're on the cusp of like, hey, I'm keeping up with like, you know, what's in the meta, what are the strong comms, what's the optimization station. This optimization for like playing around 1 cost reroll, family reroll might not be the correct optimization anymore. Maybe you go back to playing, you know, not Vertical Watcher here and you play Vertical Pit Fighter. That's like the main difference, right? Instead here you would just play extra Pit Fighters, because instead of trying to stack up the Draven and making sure your front line is stable, you just want to have more burst damage in the form of this Violet 1v9ing, and then you want to split your items on Savika 2-star and Vi 2-star instead, and the Draven is kind of like second fiddle, like only if you have a bunch of bows. Like this old way of playing it, I don't know which is better. Like I said, we're gonna have to see, but just be warned, if you're like on the trendy wave of 4-watcher family variation, it might be bad because of the Draven nerfs as well as the 4-watcher nerf, right? Both of these hit that line in particular. Akali mana nerf. So I think Akali is still busted. This Akali unit, I put items on Akali 3 and I put items on Mbessa 2 for Quick Striker, and I swear the Akali out DPS'd everybody. This Akali unit, it's starting to turn out to be like one of my like go-tos for climbing. I don't know why, but maybe it's just like coincidence, but so far Akali 3-star is very rarely contested, right? Like prioritizing full Akali, like a lot of times people will play Quick Striker and they'll like fixate, I need to get TF3, right? TF3 Loris 3, and then like other people will play and they'll be like, good, Nocturne 3, Automata Nocturne. Nobody plays that much around this Akali. I'm pretty sure Akali is way busted. So it's a very warranted nerf, by the way. This had to happen. She was disgusting. It's crazy how strong she is. So I don't know if this is gonna be a substantial nerf. The mana makes it so she doesn't get her cast off, and a lot of her damage is tied to the cast. But this unit is kind of nuts. Very flexible with items. You have many different options because she's an AP frontline unit. You can build her with Rabadons, you can build her with JG, you can build her with like Giant Slayer, Guard Breaker, Bloodthirster, Edge of Night. Like you have so many different types of builds, like more into tank, more into melee, more into AP. So really flexible. Synergizes well with a max cap version of the board where you can play around TF primarily, which you know, you can still go for the TF Loris and go for Akali 3, but I like to prioritize items on this unit. I think one of the best items on her, every time I put QSS on her, she seems really good. So I really like QSS +2 and then maybe like Hodge and JG, but sometimes I just find like myself into a spot where I can put like a Rabadons on her. But the mana nerf might make it a little bit less consistent because like you know, her whole thing about casting is just really important, right? She does this thing, she throws the shuriken, they take more damage, which is insane, and then she does this giant burst damage. If she does that less often, a lot of times when she does her step back, where she dashes away, it's like her way of helping herself to survive. A lot of times she can de-aggro a backline carry. Like imagine if she's in this row. This is why the mana nerf might be a problem. I don't know if it will be. We have to try it out. But, you know, she'll be here. And then she'll jump here. She'll get de-aggroed. And then she'll come back in and kill. So she kind of has like a built-in de-aggro effect on her sometimes. Which is really cool. It's insanely cool. So we'll see if that still works. I don't think it's that big of a nerf. But maybe this is like preventative. I don't think it was as popular as some of the other rerolls, but it was absurdly strong. So it makes sense. What I'm trying to say is this nerf had to happen, I think. Urgot 5 AD. So AD is always really important, by the way. So is Urgot back? I think no. Now, I think I don't like what they did to Urgot. It's just too many changes to try and rework the unit in a different way. So when you're thinking about Urgot reroll, a lot of times you want to put him in the front line because he gets this health shield, right? His experiment bonus is that he dashes, he gains an 8% health shield, and then he gains 20% attack speed. So if you put him in the back row or in the second row situation or further back, he doesn't make use of that health shield. So a key portion of his kit, being the experiment bonus, kind of gets eliminated. But then if you're not playing Urgot with experiment, you lose the attack speed bonus, and that's really important on the Urgot as well. So it's like, well, what do? They made it so that he can't really function properly as a frontline unit because they kind of said, we don't want him to be a frontline unit. It's like, well, that's cool, but then why does he have like a tank aspect to his experiment bonus? Right? That's what I mean. So even 5 AD is massive, by the way. A 5 AD base change could make Urgot really broken. It's just, I don't know how good it is, because if you're playing him backline and you're playing experiment, it's really awkward unless you high roll. Obviously, if you have like an Urgot 3 and 7 experiment, like you can win very easily. Like it's going to be way better. 5 AD is a massive change. Do not get me wrong. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back so they don't think that I'm like dumb or something. 5 AD is a massive buff. It is very strong. The problem is it doesn't help with his survivability, so I think that he will still not be a reroll similar to how it was before. Now, if you play him with like a Tristana line, right, like there's a Tristana Sentinel line, I play it a couple times when I have a spot for it and there's a lot of people rerolling, right? In second row, I don't know if this Urgot without experiment bonus has enough attack speed to be like a main carry, but he might be a good dual carry with the Tristana. But it's just like, you know, it's hard to say how he's going to play out. So I don't actually know where Urgot's going to land. My suspicion is that just avoid the unit still. Until you see somebody actually have success with the unit, I wouldn't touch it. That's how I'm trying to save my LP. Because I think this guy doesn't work properly anymore. I think the mana nerf as well is so big. Like 90 mana. Like, holy fuck. Like, it's not... Like there's too many problems with him. The 5 AD is almost like, I don't even care. It's like, I don't think it can function as a unit. Vander nerfs, this is huge because it affects a lot of the boards that rely on Vander. Vander used to be like, you know, even 2-star Vander was like absolutely absurd. This unit just didn't fucking die, and I don't know why they buffed him in the first place. So now they reverted the changes. I'm happy with that. I think it's necessary. Corki. So this is the big one. This is the big bombshell of the patch. If you're paying attention to the patch notes, I said before, right? Base AD is a lot. 5 AD is a huge buff. 5 AD on Corki. Now that's interesting. There's a lot of boards, excuse me, that work well with Corki. I actually think that Scrap might be a much more reliable comp to play towards again. So Scrap was probably one of the worst comps in the most current patch because they nerfed 6 Scrap. So their tankiness of it is a lot worse. 5 AD on Corki, I'm pretty sure, like, I might be wrong. Right? I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Corki is the most busted 4 cost right now. 5 AD on a Corki, and Corki already did a bunch of damage, is insane. I'm pretty sure any line that uses Corki is relevant again. So Scrap is relevant because you can place Corki into Scrap, and also Heimer, like Academy. Academy Corki now might be very strong, right? Like, you know how usually you would play like Academy like this? Right? And you, like, I think this line is also really broken. These were lines that were already, like, situationally okay. Scrap was kind of bad because the shielding really hurt it badly. But especially, like, Academy now, it's just, like, a strict buff to one of the main damage dealers in a 4-cost line that isn't necessarily contested. Because Corki isn't a unit that you just play for fun, right? It's very easy to know if you're going to be contested on the Corki. So this might make Academy very relevant. So I would be prepared for some of these lines, which is nice because judging by some of the other changes, I didn't really feel like there would be too much of a change in terms of reroll versus 4 cost, but buffing Corki like this immediately adds basically 2 4-cost lines, hopefully back into like the mix of things. So I would definitely consider playing around Corki in the B patch. It's one of the first things I'll probably try out. I definitely think it's strong. Definitely. How strong it is, I'm not sure. Because obviously, if you're playing around a 4-cost comp, I want to just make it very clear. If you're playing around a 4-cost comp and, you know, one person is rerolling Akali and one person's rerolling Tristana and another person is rerolling Zeri, and another person is rerolling Violet, it's like, okay, like at this point in time, it's not going to outscale these guys because like you're going to be dead before you even get to the Corki. So if the lobby is still playing a lot of reroll comps and you're the one that's not playing a reroll comp, Corki isn't going to save you, right? He's not that broken, but what I would say is that if there are other 4-cost players, or if you have good tempo that you're not getting obliterated by reroll comps, Corki might be a really viable option. Which, you know, instead of like, I think right now, like the default is usually like, oh, I'm just going to play around Twitch. You know, if you see a lot of sniper players that are playing around Twitch, you can kind of build items that work between the two of them, right? Like if you build IE, you know, whoop, whoop, you know, works on both of them. So now you have a little bit of like an AD flex kind of option, right? You can like hold on to scrap units to play Corki. You can hold on to like sniper watchers to play around the Twitch. And then based on what your lobby is doing, you have an option, if you're not playing reroll, to maybe play towards something else. That's what I would say. But that's it for the patch notes. I tried to explain them pretty well. I think the video went a little bit longer than I thought because I was showing some example boards. But that's it for today. Tomorrow, I will either finish the guide that I did yesterday. So yesterday I talked about optimizing boards. And I said that I would talk about every single board and what they really want. So I'm trying to structure that a little bit better because the current version I had, I was editing and it was a bit rambly. So that's why I did a short video today, because I'm going to do the longer video tomorrow for that one. I'm going to work on it tonight. And then also, if this Draven board is still really relevant, like Draven reroll, I really want to make a standalone video on Draven reroll because I want to augment, like, you know, the last video that I did on family, I didn't talk too much about the Draven video, so I want to have like a supplementary video to kind of extend that one to give you guys better information, because I kind of discounted it as being more pit fighter oriented, but it is quite dependent on family still, according to what I've seen. So I want to kind of do like a little amendment video. But anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully that was useful. Like I said, a little bit short of a video, a little bit longer anyways because I was rambling a little bit in the middle. But hopefully that was fun. See ya and bye-bye.